We're going to start going over some of the problems from our practice on relative and absolute change. Now, not every problem on this practice was specifically on relative and absolute change. We had a little bit of review of percents. And so that's the two problems this video is going to focus on, problems 1 and 2, which looked at rewriting relationships as fractions, decimals, and percents, just some basic review. And hopefully by now we're pretty comfortable with these, but in case not, let's just go through it. So we're being told to write our answer in three forms. We want a fractional answer, a decimal answer, and a percentage answer. And so we're told the winner of a presidential election in the US is determined when a winner gets at least 270 out of the 538 electoral college votes. And so we can set this up as a fraction. And so it's the part out of our sort of total. So we have, make a note, part out of our total. And so in this case, that would be the 270 votes won out of the 538. Now, it's important to remember that a fraction is another way to write a division problem. So if I want to turn this fraction into a decimal, I'm going to go over here to my handy dandy calculator. And remember, I, in my videos, use Desmos. So it's free. I highly recommend you download it. We have 270 divided by 538. And I get my decimal. And I'm going to take it a few decimal places out because remember when we write percents, we like to have at least one decimal place in our percent. And so I'm going to actually write, 0.5019. That's actually an extra decimal place from what I needed, but just in case. Now, there's our decimal answer. Now, remember to get from our decimal into our percent, we want to multiply by 100. So here we divided. And to get to the last step, we're going to multiply by 100. So I'm keeping my expression as it is in the calculator, and I'm just going to times it by 100. And so here I get my percent. So 50 point, and I'm going to round that 1, since the 8 is next to it, to 2%. So a little over 50% of the votes. All right, we're going to do the next percent problem. Now this one's a little trickier because if you notice, we're asked to compare the land area of the US to the land area of the entire world. But that land area in the US is given in square miles, while the land area in the entire world is given in square kilometers. So we need to do a little bit of unit conversions first. So we're going to do some unit conversion. And now it wouldn't matter if you switch the square kilometers or you switch the square miles. I actually switched the square miles, and that is millions of square miles. But so I'm going to take that 3.797 mil square miles, and I'm going to go over to a unit conversion calculator. And I actually already opened one up. And so one thing to note, so this is, if I'm just doing it on a website, this is my favorite one to use. It's sort of unitconverters.net. And square miles is an area unit. So you'll notice that we have the area button clicked. And I need to make sure the two units here match what I want to end up with. Square kilometers is correct, but I'm not starting with square meters. I'm starting with square miles. So I would go over here and I'm going to change square meters to square miles. And I'm going to type in the value that we got given, which was 3.797. And it pops out 9.83419,203 square kilometers. And so that's the number that I'm going to now go back to my handout. And I'm going to round it a little. And this, so millions of square kilometers, this is going to be the number for the area of the US that we're going to use. Now we can go and do the exact same process we did up top. We're going to start with, setting up our fraction. So the area of the US is the sort of piece that we're looking at. And that's going to be divided by the total area. Then I'm going to divide those two numbers. So go back to my Desmos calculator, 9.834 divided by 148.94. And depending on how many decimal places you took with that square kilometers number, you might get a slightly different value. But it should be around 6/100ths. But remember, I like to go 2 decimal, or at least 3 decimal places here, so I get a decimal point on my percent. So we divided, make sure you, have 3 decimal places, because that allows me then, when I set up my percent, I end up with my 6.6%. Hopefully this helps sort of clarify both of these fraction decimal percent problems. In the next video, we'll move on to looking at problems 3 and 4.